Okay, on today's show, Suella Braverman slams the police, with good reason in my opinion, an EV hike of the kind you're probably not expecting, and a privacy invasion that could affect us all. Let's begin. The article says that an electric car could cost you around 50% more to insure than a petrol equivalent. The most sought after electric vehicles could cost drivers around £650 a year on insurance costs compared to £435 for petrol. And this of course can be seen as a significant blow to the UK's plans to end the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. According to Mail Online, claims car selling website Cinch noted the reason behind the higher costs was due to a limited number of garages around the UK equipped to repair electric motors. And this is despite the cost of insuring them being relatively low due to them having lower moving parts than petrol or diesel motors. Cinch also warned that owners of electric cars could see other cost increase coming in the next couple of years, as electric cars become subject to coarse road tax. Electric car owners have already expressed their frustration with the lengthy queues and the lack of new chargers being installed across the UK. But a recent poll for the Alliance of British Drivers found that a total of 54% of drivers think that the government target of 2030 should be moved back or scrapped. And actually 6 in 10 people in favour of the ban want it pushed back by 10 years or more. Figures released last week from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Trackers, the SMMT, showed that whilst sales of battery electric vehicles reached a record 46,625 in March, they still represent just over 16% of the market, the same proportion as a year ago. Well, of course, I don't know about you, but the only incentive this gives me is to actually not buy an electric car, because it takes away what surely is another plus point of less mechanical parts in the car to go wrong, so presumably you'd think the insurance would be much cheaper, but of course it turns out it isn't. And thinking about it, not only is this just another nail in the EV coffin itself, if it gets any more nails, it'll end up being made out of just nails by itself, won't it? And I'm actually struggling to find any incentive at all about getting an EV itself, because yes, okay, they're quieter, but if I'm going to have to pay potentially hundreds of pounds more a year just to insure it, then who's going to really want to do that? Especially if the good old petrol car that you've got, mine currently is a C3, is vastly cheaper to insure and also runs a lot further on a tank, which by the way of course only takes around 5 minutes or so to fill up. Now I can see this putting more people off if anything. Not to mention of course, because whilst admittedly electric prices are going down at the moment, although by not that much compared to what they were just a couple of years ago, then to be honest it could end up being more of a pain in the arse than that ex-girlfriend who just won't take no for an answer. But not only that of course, because at the moment, as we all know, inflation for nearly everything just seems to be going through the roof at the moment. So it does actually make me wonder how much, if indeed, electric car prices will actually go up by, rather than come down in price to actually tempt people into buying one instead. In fact, actually, a lot of changes do need to be made by now and presumably 2030 when that car ban does come in. Of course, that does not get extended. Although I think between me and you, that probably will be extended by, I don't know, about 10 years or so, I reckon. But then it also could be wrong. I mean, it has happened once, but that was only when I thought I was wrong, so who knows? But I think the number one thing with electric cars that needs to be improved is the charging speed itself, because unless, of course, you own a house with a driveway, who actually wants to either sit in their car for potentially 20 or 30 minutes, or sit in a nearby cafe while it's charged, and thereby negating any cost saving at all in my opinion, because let's face it, drinks in cafes aren't exactly cheap, are they? But if they got that charging down to at least something like 5 minutes or so, then it wouldn't be too bad, although the chances of that happening by 2030 are very, very, very slim, and are probably about the same as, I don't know, Vanessa Fultz being classed as anorexic, in my opinion anyway. Home Secretary Suella Braverman has slammed the police for sending 6 officers to, wait for this, seize a collection of golliwog dolls. 6 members of Essex Police were sent out to a pub in Grays, Essex, where 15 dolls were seized following an anonymous complaint. The Home Office branded the incident nonsense before criticising the force, saying that they should be focusing on more serious crimes. The dolls displayed in the pub as gifts from customers were seized under the suspected hate crime. The officers were captured on CCTV seizing the dolls and placing them into an evidence bag. Responding to the incident, the Home Office source said, "The Home Secretary's views now have been made very plain to Essex Police, so they're under no illusions. Police forces should not be getting involved in this kind of nonsense. It's about tackling antisocial behaviour, stopping violence against women and girls, attending burglaries and catching criminals, not seizing dolls." Landlord Bernice Riley was quizzed by the officers over the dolls. And speaking to Thurrock Nub News, she said a visitor made a complaint after being quite upset about the dolls. Police said that as he is the licensee, they need to interview him and have taken the dolls away in the interim. And this isn't the first time the dolls have received complaints. In 2018, the couple refused to remove them after a local authority received a complaint. Miss Riley added, "I don't understand why we have to go through this all over again." And she continued, "I understand that some people may not like them, and they are entitled to that view, but they do not have to come into the pub, and as far as we are aware, we are not breaking any laws by displaying them, and that was proved last time we were investigated." Well, hang on a minute. Why exactly were 6 police officers sent to deal with this in the first place? I mean, did the operator mishear or something and think that the dolls were carrying out some sort of crime themselves or something like that? I mean, whatever's going to be next? Sending 10 police officers to nick a 6-year-old cereal toy or something? It's just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? And yes, Suella Braverman is right. Police should not be getting involved in this sort of thing. It's hardly a serious crime, is it? If indeed one at all, unless of course they want to label it a hate incident, as so many things tend to be nowadays. It just makes me wonder how long will actually be before today's jokes they deem acceptable will one day be seen as offensive or nasty and they must be stopped, or whatever. I mean, will they then send 20 police officers round instead? And at the end of the day, the landlady's right. If people don't like something displayed on the pub, then just don't go to the pub. And then that way, the pub won't be earning money from your custom. But to be honest, they might not want your custom at all if all they're going to do is just complain about things. And why go to the police and not the pub themselves? I mean, did they go to the pub and not like the pub's answer? Or did they think they were going to get some sort of victim compensation out of it? Because of a few dolls on a shelf here, of course, just sitting there and not actually doing anything. I mean, they're dolls, aren't they? And admittedly, they're not allowed on TV anymore and things like that. But if they're not illegal, then what's the problem? Why are the police even getting involved if they're not illegal? Because as far as I'm aware, police are actually meant to solve crimes and arrest people for crimes, not get involved in civil matters and things of that kind. Because let's face it, it's just a waste of taxpayers' money, isn't it really? And those 6 police officers could actually be doing something better, in my opinion, like attending burglaries, assaults, and solving what I'm sure everyone deems as proper crimes themselves. Because unless the dolls somehow transform into something like Chucky, I can't see how it would actually require police attendance. Delivery company DPD has been slammed for allegedly invading the privacy of a family after a driver went inside their home to leave a parcel. The claim has been made by 51-year-old Paula Alderbauer. I hope I pronounced that right. She claims that the DPD delivery bloke would not give the parcel over until he was allowed to enter the home and take a picture of it inside the property. Recalling the situation, Paula said, "They pressed the doorbell and my son went out, and they said to him that they can't put it on the doorway to take a picture. But that just didn't add up to me, and you shouldn't have to do that by law. Then he went through the side gate, opened the kitchen door and put the parcel inside. He shouldn't be going into my property to take a photo. My husband intercepted him and said, 'You don't need to open the door, take it outside.' The policy needs changing." She continued, "I have sympathy for the drivers as they're only doing what they've been told. But a DPD spokesperson said that all drivers are required to take a photograph of the parcel inside an open doorway as a way of obtaining proof of delivery. However, they did admit that the driver should not have gone to the other door and will ensure that that is made clear to him." Well, of course, I don't know about you, but to be honest, I think there's just absolutely no excuse for this at all. I mean, yes, I know it's changed since COVID, and let's face it, quite a lot of things have done. But as long as someone has been handed a parcel, then what is wrong with that person holding the parcel in a photograph? Even if the door itself is closed, because surely they've delivered it then, haven't they? Unless, of course, they're worried about any claims coming in and saying, "Oh, I don't know that person with the parcel." But even so, in that case, they'd probably more than likely have to prove they didn't know the person and why they indeed were on their property at the time. But even if that is not possible, what is wrong with just leaving it on the doorstep with the door open? Why did he have to think that he needed to actually go inside their house to do so? I mean, he could literally have been anyone, couldn't he? Or eyeing up their property and seeing what valuables they have left about and things like that. If, of course, he moonlighted as a burglar. I think the reason why the door has to be open, though, is because I'm guessing there have been some couriers, not all couriers, so don't start biting my head off, but some couriers in the past have taken a photo against a closed door and then walked off with the parcel itself after the photograph was taken. But then again, of course, I could be wrong. Either way, though, if you are going to replace someone signing something as a method of saying that a delivery had taken place, then it needs to be something which does not invade people's privacy. And there's, of course, absolutely no way at all that I would let a delivery person try that in my house. Unless, of course, it was someone like Catherine Jenkins who was delivering the parcel, but mind you, I would have had a parcel for her myself. And of course, if you think that's bad, then wait until you see this video with a Tesco's delivery, which I'm sure you certainly wouldn't want. Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.